Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another weekly live chat. My name is Laken and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern to chat about all things goals. We talk about some of my goal check-ins, both my reading goals and my general personal goals. Then we focus on a topic for why do I always want to say topic for the month? Topic for the week. And then I open it up for Q&A and answer any questions that you have. So let's start with our first question that we always start with while everyone is kind of joining in. And that is, what is one small win that you have to share from the last week? It can be anything. It can be related to your goals. It can be not related to your goals. Any wins that you have from the last week. You also know it doesn't have to be huge. I would love to hear down in the chat. If you are here live, say hello in the live chat and let us know what your win is. And if you are part of the replay fam, thank you for watching the replay. Share your win in the comments. I love reading all of your wins in the comments. And I guess never say never, because like if my life drastically changed or like I got a gazillion subscribers, maybe this wouldn't be true. But as of right now, I read every comment that is left on videos and I love it. It's one of my favorite things. So leave a comment. Let us know. I'm going to take a sip of water before I move into coffee. Oh yeah, I needed that. Okay. I have a hot latte today. I've been trying new cold brew in a can from Costco. And while I like it in that it limits me from the amount of coffee that I have per day, because once it's gone, it's gone. And there are days like today where the can is gone and I don't have any of the Trader Joe's with me, or not with me, like I'm out of the Trader Joe's cold brew. And so hot coffee it is. I've scheduled going to a movie in the theater with friends to see Argyle. My mom and sister went and saw it. They said it was cute. My mom said you really have to pay attention if you're going to understand what's going on. So FYI, but I hope you enjoy it. Small win, tracked AM routine with the Habits app this week. Thanks for the recommendation. So if you don't know what she's talking about, I shared rewind in a favorites video. This quarter also, by the way, I did my favorites videos a little bit differently. I did it in a vlog, like vlog style. I just showed you my favorites in a vlog. And one of the things I talked about was an app called Habits. That's literally what it's called. I guess I thought I said it in the video, but I got so many comments. Y'all, the comments, the DMs, and the text from the community about the app. I felt so bad. I think I did say it. I think it just because it's called Habits, I think it was confusing that was the actual name of the app. But it's, my phone is in the middle of something. I'm doing a time lapse of the live. It's a red check mark is what it looks like. So anyways, I'm glad that you're enjoying it, Jamie. Been sort of consistent with my evening routine. Hey, sort of is still consistent, a key in my book. I bought the Q2 planner, so I'm ready for Saturday. So exciting. And tomorrow is my birthday. Happy early birthday. Let us know what you're doing to celebrate. Argyle is so fun. I saw it with friends and enjoyed it. I love it. I love it. I love hearing about all of your wins. If you join us at any point, continue to share your wins. I love to hear them. Let's move into my book updates. Oh, just kidding. I never shared my win. It's the same as last week's. I did above and beyond my minimums for monthly and weekly tasks. And I finally feel like I have figured out how to make this goal work for me. I will talk about it more in my quarterly and monthly goals videos coming up, but I feel really good about it. That's my win. Okay, now let's move into books. So once again, I don't have any finished books to share with you this week, but I have started some new ones and have some more thoughts to share about reading. So still reading my hard copy of Chill and Prosper. I am so close. I thought I was going to finish it like from last week to this week. I'm 30 pages. As of this morning, I'm 30 pages from being done. So I'll be done next week. This will be on the finished list for sure next week. I'm also still reading Court of Thorns and Roses, kind of, because I also started listening to the audiobook of Fourth Wing. So I read the actual book at the beginning of the year, loved it. Put the audiobook on hold at the library, thought it was going to take forever for it to come. And it originally said months. And then the Chicago library acquired a ton of copies. And so I got it. And then I actually got it. And then I put it back for a little bit. And then I got it again and was like, okay, I'm going to listen to it now. So I'm listening to it as I fall asleep at night. Sorry, I keep messing with my hair. It's like bothering me. This is why I don't wear my hair down anymore. And so I feel like listening to this audiobook as I fall asleep, but then also reading this feels like a lot. So we'll see. TBD on that. The other book that I started in the last week is listening to the audiobook of Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. This is technically a reread for me because I did read the physical book. I actually took it with us on our honeymoon. It was one of the books I read on the honeymoon, but I'm listening to it, which so many people recommend listening to it, especially because Matthew McConaughey is, if you don't know, this is Matthew McConaughey's autobiography, and listening to it is so fun. It is so fun. So I am very much enjoying that. And then still chugging on my daily stoic. I had a good week, so bumped up my percent a little bit to 85. And I thought I would check in and share with you my entire progress on my reading goal. So if you've been around, I have 20 books that are part of my reading goal, like 20 planned books. These exact books are the ones I want to read in 2024. And so far, as of today, I've read 8 of those 20. So it's pretty good. Like I feel like, I'm above pace, if you will. But I also wanted to be a little bit above or ahead because I knew that the year is only going to get busier from Q1, but I feel good about that so far. And then I've read 10 books total because I read 2 additional fiction books that weren't on my original plan. So feeling good about my reading goals so far for the year. We have one more small win, successfully practicing my morning routine several days as I go back to work from maternity leave next week. And my morning routine looks very different. Katie, first off, that is not a small win in my book. That is a larger win. And congrats on your little one. And yes, your morning routine definitely looks very different than it did pre-tiny human. I love that. Okay, let's move in to my goal check-ins. There it is. Okay. So here is the check-in for March of this year. It is the 20th, the day that this is going live. I'm also filming my goals video today. So this will be the check-in that you also see on the goals video. But I like sharing it week to week so you can see the changes from last week. A couple of things that I got done. I scheduled all the appointments from last week. I did some more monthly tasks, a weekly task. I already talked about that. Making progress on my nonfiction, obviously, because I'm almost done with it. And another week where no December daily progress. I don't want to talk about it here. I talk about it in the goals video. That's coming. You can learn about it there. But that is my goal check-in. Let me know down in the comments, either here live or watching the replay. Do you like these goal check-ins? Do you feel like this is helpful? I like it. I like sharing the update with you on a weekly basis, but I also feel like because I filmed the goals videos before this, I feel like there's a lot of repetitiveness. I feel like I say a lot of the same things. And so either I restrain myself on a weekly basis, I restrain myself in the goals video, or I'm repetitive. Which, if I'm repetitive, people probably aren't watching every single video anyways. I know some of you do because you're the best. I don't know. I would love to know your thoughts. If you think this is helpful this month, like this weekly goal check-in, do you like just seeing it? You just want to see my update every week? I'm open to your suggestions and your feedback. Oh, this is delicious. And it's like the perfect temperature right now. Okay, I'm just going to sip this for a second. All right. If you have any thoughts, feel free to share them again. It doesn't look like there's any comments coming through, which could have been. Oh, I don't mind the repetitiveness, especially since the videos and the lives aren't on the same day. I probably forget some of the details. That's true, Jamie. You're probably right that like talking about it on the live and then 3 weeks later having the video go up and it being in there is like, it's probably fine. Yeah, you're probably right. I think it helps keep me accountable. Okay, Amber, I appreciate that. It's encouraging. Even the ones that I don't have anything on there. 0 check marks. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Agree with Jamie. Okay. Thank you guys. I think I will continue then. I will continue to do it on the weekly basis and not worry about being repetitive. I find it helpful to see your weekly updates, but you could Could it work to compromise and do every other week when you have time to share a mid-month update? Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, I think if we lived in a world, Jennifer, where like the weeks were perfect and I could share it mid-month. I mean, this month, I guess there's always a Wednesday that's kind of the middle of the month, right? So I could just do that one instead of doing it weekly. I could do it on just the middle of the month one. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I really like the weekly updates because it gives me a kick to keep up with mine. That's a great reminder, Linda. Okay. Okay. Y'all convinced me. I appreciate it. I always appreciate the feedback, y'all. Who was I talking to the other day about like the difference between constructive feedback and criticism? And obviously there's a very like difference between like here's the feedback and here's my suggestion, here's my recommendation based on what it works for me versus, you know, the people that are just like I think you should do XYZ and it's like what is that's not helpful. Liz, I appreciate this. As someone who watches just about every video, which thank you, I love seeing them in both places. Okay, cool. Cool. Then we'll keep doing it. I think for me today, especially because I was filming that check-in video, I was like, I'm gonna just about say all the same things and that I would say that I did say in that video. I already recorded them. And it's like, but it that video for you is not going live for 10 days. So it's silly. Okay, let's move in to the topic for the week. So we are continuing our conversation about refreshing. We are 10 days out from a new quarter. And so for all of this month, have been talking about refreshing our goals for the new quarter. Today's topic is preparing to refresh. Now, do not freak out if you're watching this Friday and tomorrow is the quarterly refresh call. Okay. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the quarterly refresh call inside the Goals with Laken community is this Saturday, the 23rd, from the day that this video is going live. You might be watching it after that at 11 a.m. Eastern. It is scheduled for 2 hours. I'm going to be honest. I had a really hard time. I worked on the outline and the PowerPoint yesterday. I had a really hard time cramming it into 2 hours. Yeah. So it's going to be 2 hours. And the replay will be up as soon as technology allows. So as soon as Zoom can export it and Teachable can upload it, which sometimes doesn't take long and sometimes it takes a very long time. So because I've gotten that question in the last few days about when the replay will be up. It will be up as soon as I can. So for those of you watching this video after that date, there will be a replay. But Saturday is all about actions. Saturday is going to be me walking you through exactly the steps to take to do a quarterly refresh. These are the steps to take. We're going to check in with all of our annual goals and reflect on what has worked and what hasn't worked. And we're going to decide if we want to keep them or if we want to change them. We're going to go through our Q1 goals. How did they go? And we're going to pick goals for Q2 or focuses if you do that. Or if you don't do that, you can just narrow in from your annual goals what you're going to work on. And we're going to break them down. And then we're going to set up April. Saturday is workshop action. This video is going to be mindset. This is going to be 3 things I want you to think about, 3 mindsets I want you to really embrace as we go in to the refresh. Whether you're participating in the call on Saturday or not, these are things I want you to think about as you go into a new quarter. This can also apply to new months, new years, new weeks, new days, all the things. So number 1 is to let go of Q1. Q1 is over. Not yet as of the filming of this video, but when not filming, recording. Okay. Q1 is what it is. What happened, what didn't happen, the progress you made, the progress you didn't make, the things that you're proud of, the things that you're not proud of, it all happened. You cannot go back in time and change anything unless you have some magical thing I don't have. Do you have a time turner? I don't have a time turner. So Q1 happened, and that is what happened. And while we want to reflect and learn about what worked and what didn't work, we also have to let go of any other attachments we have to Q1. Maybe Q1 was awesome for you. You spent a lot of time focusing on your goals. You really embraced that new year motivation. It was cold, so you weren't going anywhere, and you blew all of your goals out of the water. You're way ahead on everything. But Q2 is going to be different. It's going to be a little chaotic. You've got some trips, you've got some other commitments, maybe a big work project, and you know that your Q2 progress is likely going to be smaller and less than your Q1 project, your progress. That's okay. You don't have to compare your Q2 to Q1. You could be the flip side, right? Q1 was rough. You didn't make as much progress as you wanted to make. You struggled a little bit in Q1. There were things about it that you would have changed, something that you would have done differently, but you can't because it's already passed. That time has passed. You cannot get that time back. You're going to focus on Q2. And whether Q2 is just as busy or not, you're going to focus on what you can do in Q2 and not what you can't do. We can't go back and change time. We can't focus on, I wish I had done this, or if only I had started on January 1st, or if only I had XYZ. Okay. That you can take what you learn from that and apply it, but you have to let go of what did or did not happen in Q1. Number 2, do not get distracted by shiny objects. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't add new things to your goals. Something may have changed. We talked a couple weeks ago about how life changes, and that's why you need a goal refresh. And so there might be a scenario that you add a goal, an annual goal to your list this year. But if you likely spent a lot of time in December being very thoughtful about the goals that you picked for the year, don't get distracted by something new and exciting and push off whatever December you decided was important. Again, it doesn't mean that you can't change your annual goals, but if there is something brand new that popped up into your head, something that you had never even thought about before, and now you want to work on it, or now you want to spend time on it, I want you to really consider if that is useful. Is that what you really want to be spending your time on? Or is it just new and shiny? Is it just something that is like, well, I'm bored with the action steps I'm taking, or I don't like the progress I made in Q1, or insert any number of reasons why you would want to let go of the goals that you're working on for some shiny, new, fun, pretty goal. Don't let yourself get distracted. I struggle with this a lot more with business than I do with personal goals. I can be very easily distracted. Literally yesterday, I was listening to a podcast in the morning. I wrote something down on my planner to look into during the workday. And then I got to that point during the day and I was like, Laken, who are you kidding? There is no time for this. You do not have time for this right now. If this is still something you want to consider in the future, maybe you will, but now is not that time. I put it on the 2025 idea list for business. I was like, it's not happening in 2024. Unless something drastically changes, that's not a priority. Put it off. The same can be true for you. We talked last week about not last week. Maybe that was 3 weeks ago, a couple weeks. We talked about goal idea lists and where to store those and which ones to have. That's where these ideas go. That's where the shiny objects go to live. Don't get distracted by them. Number 3, I want you to trust your gut. And if you're anything like me, you probably struggle with the concept of gut and intuition. And I did for a very long time. I was like, I'm not a gut person. I'm not an intuition person. I can't just make a decision on the fly. Like, that's not me. I need pro and con lists. I need logic. I need data. I need information to make decisions. And for some things, that's still true. Like for some things, I do still want a pro con list. For some things, I do still need to shop around. For some things, I do still need all the data and all the information to make a decision. But let's be real. If I stopped to gather all the data and information and make a pro con list for every decision I had to make in my life, that's all I would do. I would spend all my time making decisions. And that is not a good use of my time. And then I learned somewhere, and you've heard me say this before, I wish I could give credit to the person. I've tried Googling it. I cannot find it. I don't know if it was a podcast or a book I don't know where, or YouTube video, I don't know where I learned this, but somebody talked about that you making a gut decision or following your instinct is just your brain making a calculated decision really, really, really fast based on everything you already know. Said another way, you have all this information in your head about the world, about your life, about your likes and dislikes, about everything. And so when you have a gut feeling or an instinct, that is your brain firing all of those different, all that information that's deep down really, really fast, like your subconscious, and making a decision and sending it in the form of that feeling to you, that gut, that instinct feeling. When I heard that, I was like, oh, I like it. So if it is something that is a personal decision about me or my life, nobody knows that better than I do. I can't Google my way into deciding if that's the right goal for me. Most of the time it's a gut feeling. It's an instinct like this is what I'm supposed to pick. And so I want you to do the same, especially those of you like me who like data and information and pro con lists and all the things. Trust your gut, whether that's telling you to cut a goal, whether it's telling you to change a goal, whether that's telling you to focus on this action step over that action step. Whatever you are thinking as we go into the new quarter, trust your gut and what makes sense for you in your life. So those are the mindsets. I want you to just kind of think about those and let those sink in. And if you want some support and extra accountability on the actual steps, like the action steps that we're going to take to refresh our goals, come join us on Saturday. We will be live together on Saturday morning, and the replay will be up after that if you're busy or just want to do it at your own pace. But I'm very excited. I'm excited to be back together on a weekend. I'm excited to refresh our goals together and support you through that process. So any questions or thoughts on this topic before we move into Q&A? Tammy, also being my guinea pig, if your name that you prefer to go by is not your YouTube name or Facebook, if you're on Facebook, I appreciate you including your name so that I can address you by your name. You read my mind. I've been distracting myself with a shiny, fun goal. And it doesn't mean that we can't have fun goals. Don't get me wrong. But I don't want you to put off what is important to you for shiny object syndrome. And if you really want to still work on that fun, shiny object, let it be a reward. Let those steps be the reward for doing the other goals and the other action steps that are important to you. Anything else? All right, let's move in to Q&A time. So this is your time. I will be here until at least 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. Feel free to ask anything. It can be about your individual goals and struggles, something that you are struggling with. I promise, even if you feel it's really specific to you in your life, somebody will benefit. It can be about a specific topic. If you don't know how to phrase it into a question, whatever you want to chat about, you could just put topic, insert topic here, and we can just chat about a topic or whatever's on your mind, whatever it is that y'all want to chat about. Yes, it can be a reward for the foundation work first. Stephanie, great question. What if you have broad annual goals and have options of where to go from here? How do you narrow them down? So we will definitely be tackling this on Saturday, but it comes down to first breaking them down, right? So breaking them down into the various options, all the various steps. Sometimes when things are too broad, if we don't take the time to actually break them down, we think there's more than there is. Now, it doesn't mean that you're still not going to break it down and have a lot of choices, but if we don't do that step, our brains can sometimes think like there's more than there actually is. Like once you start writing things down on paper, sometimes you realize it's a little bit more limited. Next, you have to prioritize. Well, okay, before we get to that, next is assessing your time. How much time do you have to actually work on your goals? What does your quarter look like? Is it incredibly overwhelming? Do you have a big project at work? The kids are going to be done with school. You've got finals. Like, is there something in Q2 that's going to hinder your ability to make progress on goals? And keeping that in mind. Or is it an open quarter for you? And you're going to have lots of extra time. Maybe you're a college student who is done with school on May 10th, and the whole second half of the quarter is pretty open for you, right? There's lots of different scenarios, and everybody's life is different. So, what does the quarter look like for you? Then you prioritize. And I have lots of videos about prioritizing your goals. We will also talk about prioritizing on Saturday and how to actually pick and prioritize what you want to focus on. But ultimately, I'm going to go back to the mindset I talked about trusting your gut. Where do you want to start? When you look at that list, what jumps out at you is start there. We sometimes get so caught up in the value of time. And don't get me wrong, time is our most valuable resource. But we talk about that so often, I think that sometimes we can let it be a negative. And we say, well, if time is my most valuable resource, then I have to make sure that I'm starting with the best, the perfect, the number one step first to make the best use of my time. And if we spend all of our time focusing on figuring out what that step is, we'll never actually start, right? So you're better off just picking and just starting and making progress, learning from that progress and figuring out what works and what doesn't work for you. And then you can always adjust, right? You can always change your mind. You can change your mind any day that you want. You can change your mind in the middle of the month, or we do a monthly refresh. You can change your mind at the end of the month and pick something different and focus on something different. So don't let yourself get caught up in the like, I need to pick the perfect. And you didn't say that. I'm speaking from a prior version of myself who used to be that way, who used to sit there and think about like, I need to pick the perfect action step rather than just saying like, here are 10 action step ideas. I'm going to do these two and move on. Thank you for talking about your gut intuition and saying it's okay to listen to it. I personally question it sometimes. I do too. And I did a lot more, Jennifer, before I heard that your gut is just your brain making a decision really fast based on knowledge that you already have. So trust yourself that you're smart. You have knowledge. You are the one who knows your life the best. So if your gut intuition says to do XYZ, just go with it. Now, obviously, within reason. When I'm talking about trusting your gut intuition tells you to like quit your job and move to an island. I mean, maybe that works for you. I'm talking about like you're looking at two goals, two action steps, and you're like, should I do this one or this one first? Trust your gut when your gut says, do this one. Or like my example is in April, I really debated between doing two different action steps, and my gut was like, do them both. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do them both. Oh, that's so funny that I just gave that as an example. I was thinking through the idea of pursuing a new job, and it will require moving to another town or another state. But I finally felt content in where I live and in my job that I always thought I had to pursue. And that is one of those bigger decisions, right? And if we are talking bigger decisions, part two, to the next level job and climb the ladder, but now I don't. Yes. And when we're talking about big level decisions like this, there might be some component that is a pro con list that is a little bit of information searching, but there is also the gut instinct component. And if your gut instinct tells you that you could be happy with a new job in a new city or a new state, you let that drive you more than all the things in your head telling you you can't do it, right? Like I know you've been working on your house, right? So I can see like my brain would be like, well, I just put all this work into my house and so now I'm going to get up and move. And like, well, yes, that piece of it is hard. It doesn't mean that you can't find a house or a place that you love in another city or another state. And when it comes to something like your job, and I know I've talked about this on lives before, and I know this is so much easier said than done. Your job is a big part of your life. We spend a lot of hours, a lot of our time on our jobs. Actually, I think this was on a community call where somebody was talking about how they were unhappy in their job, and I was like, I don't want to tell you to quit your job, but I want you to consider the fact that your job is such a big part of your life, and you deserve for that part not to be so negative that it outweighs all the other positives. It's not like it's gonna be perfect or great or the best 100% of the time because it's not. No job is. No anything is. But if it is truly not working, then that may be the answer for you. And I know these bigger decisions are tougher to think about your gut and intuition, but at the end of the day, most of the time, our gut and intuition aren't leading us astray. Megan, how do you balance that gut instinct with imposter syndrome? What do you mean? I guess I don't fully understand. I guess maybe what you're going for is like, how can you trust your gut if, and then you have the imposter syndrome? And I think it comes down to what you're making a decision about. What I'm talking about here, like I said, is like things related to your life, your goals in your life. There is no imposter syndrome to who knows your life better than you. Like, there's just not. Nobody knows your life better than you. Yeah, just feeling like you don't have the knowledge to make the decision. Okay. When it comes to your own life and your goals, nobody knows the ins and outs better than you. So there is no imposter syndrome there. There is nobody in this world who knows your life better than you. And nobody will be able to make that decision better than you. And then when it comes to having the knowledge to make the decision, I think, and this definitely is driven a lot too by personalities, and like if you're somebody who needs like the knowledge and the data and the information to make the decision, if you feel like you need additional knowledge or information, I would ask yourself to get really specific about what information it is that you need. Asking, like, I actually just did this recently with a decision. I was like, what do I need to know in order to feel confident in my decision? And the decision I was making was probably somewhere in between, like which goal action step, that example I just gave, and Jennifer's like maybe move to a different state and get a whole new job. It was somewhere in between those two. And I had a gut instinct of what my answer was going to be. But there was also a piece of me that wanted that to not be the answer. I wanted to pick the other thing. And I'm not, for personal reasons, I'm not going to share my example, which I know that the vagueness is probably very annoying, but I'm not going to share. But it really ties in well to this because nobody can make this decision but me. So, right, I had like my heart wanted to do this one thing, but my gut was saying, no, don't do that. And so I asked myself, what information, what knowledge do I need to make this decision? Like, what is stopping my either my gut from agreeing with my heart or my heart from agreeing with my gut? And I answered that and I was like, this is the information that I need. And I got it. I went and sought it. And then I made my decision. To answer the story, I went with the gut, unfortunately. It's not the answer I wanted, but it was the right one. And it's I think it also just comes down to what, Like, what I'm trying to figure out how to say this. What is important to you? Is it that you make this decision with all the knowledge in the world? Or is it that you make this decision based on the most important thing related to that decision and then you move on? Because that's where I was getting with this is I was losing sleep. It was all I was thinking about and I was like you just have to make a decision. And yes, there was a deadline that I had to make it by and I literally waited. Like I didn't take my own advice here and I waited until the last possible day. And in retrospect, I wish I had not done that. Like, I wish I had just the day the information came like, the option came out, I was like, decision gut made and not spend, like, 10 days losing sleep and thinking about it. So that's why you have to come down to, is it something that I want to spend time going back and forth on, or do I just want to get what I need to get and make the decision? I hope this is helpful. I feel like, I'm trying to think of an example that I can share that might be better to put like some concrete things to it. I'm not saying any of it's easy also. I understand that. And there's again the spectrum of like making a super small decision like what I'm going to order for dinner. And then there's, you know, Jennifer's example of am I going to look for a new job? And there's a million and one decisions in between that we make every single day. So many decisions, y'all. That was always my first answer for the first few months when somebody asked me, what surprised you the most about motherhood? And it was like the amount of decisions I have to make on a regular basis for my tiny, tiny human. My tiny human who literally eats, sleeps, and poops. Like I have to make so many decisions for her on a everyday basis. Like so many decisions. I think my questioning is mostly within my work environment and those goals. Okay, that's definitely a different ball game than a personal decision, right? So I would really encourage you the question of what information do you need to make that decision? And also, you still when the imposter syndrome pops up, you you still know a lot, right? You may feel like you don't know everything, but you have X number of years of experience in that job. You have been successful at XYZ. Remind yourself of the things that you're good at and the things you have accomplished to kind of be like, imposter syndrome, go away. I can make this decision. I know what I'm talking about. I don't want to take the easy route either. And if I decide to stay, I want it to be because it's the right decision and not the easy one. That is also a really good point, right? There's a lot of factors at play. There's the ease of it, right? Which one's easy? And then one of the things that was at play with our decision is the risk versus the reward. And we were having these conversations because it was like, you know, every day you get in a car, you are putting it at risk. You're putting your life at risk, right? There is a percentage chance, not to be super morbid, that you get in a car accident. But you decide that the reward of wherever you're going and living your life by using said car is worth the risk of injury, etc. in said car. And that is true for literally everything, right? Like we are and risk doesn't have to mean something super morbid like death, right? It can be like the risk that for you, Jennifer, right? The risk that you're unhappy, the risk that you are struggle in the new city, the risk that you don't like that new job as much, right? There's risks at play. And then there's the reward, the upside, right? You have a job that you really love. You are in something like there's so many potential rewards that offset that. And for some things, we very rarely, this is my math brain coming out. we can know really specifics, right? I mean, I can know, I guess, the percentage risk when I get in a car, but I can't measure the reward for being able to drive to a place. Right? I can't measure that. So I have to just make the decision on my own. I just have to decide, is the reward worth the risk? And we do that all the time. You do it on really small levels without even thinking about it. But you make those gut instinct decisions based on knowledge that you already have. And so I think that's what it comes down to, Jennifer, is like the risk versus the reward is what there are risks, right? And it is likely not the easier one. And then there's the rewards and the positive outcome. And as much as I would love, yep, Laken the actuarial, as much as I would love to calculate all that for you and be able to like present you with numbers, is literally, yes, all my years of being an actuary coming out. I can't. I mean, you can't. You can't calculate any of it. And so you're going to have to make the decision. The other thing I want to say about your statement here is the right decision. There, the phrase the right decision or the right insert thing here falls in with perfection. It falls in line with there is a right and a wrong. There is a black and a white. There is a 100 and a 0. And most of the time, that's not the case. Most of the time, there's a gray in the middle, right? There's a spectrum. There's somewhere in the middle. And so, even though your decision here is like a black or white, like you make the decision or you don't, I would argue that there's not a right and a wrong decision here. There is a decision that makes the most sense for you right now, given your life, given your situation, given the knowledge that you have, given your priorities in this moment. And that could pan out any number of ways. So, um, I just think that's a mindset thing, right? Instead of thinking about it as right and wrong, because then it really it gives the other decision like a really negative connotation also. And if they're both on the table, then one is not wrong. You know what I mean? Like when I think about things that are black or white, like good and bad, you're not going to debate. There's no decision. One is right and one is wrong. And you know that. Like it's there. If you're debating it, there's a decision to be made. It's gray. It's not right and wrong. That's something I just like came to me right now. I just went through this with a decision regarding my teenage daughter's education. I went with my gut, but it's not the easier option. It's tough. It's tough. The other thing I would encourage anybody feeling like they're struggling with the decision, Megan, Jennifer, anybody, um, ask yourself what is the best case scenario and what is the worst case scenario. And that kind of aligns with the risk rewards, but like a way to think about it. And ask yourself, like, in the worst case, and it kind of goes for both decisions, right? Like both options. Are you willing to have the worst case scenario? Like, are you willing for that to be your scenario? And like, could you overcome that? And what would that look like? And then on the flip side, like, is that worth the potential best case scenario? That's another thing I did when I was making my decision. I think this is a really good topic. I feel like we kind of have like ventured into this conversation about decision making, but and again, there's a spectrum, right? Your teenage daughter's education, Amber, is a huge, like it's huge. It is, but it isn't. It's right now we're in your daughter's life and the impact it could have on her future. It's a big decision. And so like on the spectrum of things, like where you would put that is much higher than what am I going to have for dinner? Um, and so if it's a smaller decision, give it small time. And if it's a bigger decision, give it big time, I think is what I'm trying to get at. And again, I would have told a couple weeks ago, Laken that. Like, this decision didn't need to take you 10 days. It just didn't. Mhm. I knew you could help me see all the sides and items, seeing all the options, and none of them are black and white or negative or positive. Yeah. There's two options, two shades gray. You got to decide which one, based on what you know right now, which one you can do, which one feels right. Oh, it's hard. It's not hard. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. Um, but then I think back, and Stephanie, I see your question and I will get to that. I want to make sure we wrap up this topic before we move on. Um, when I think back to some of the decisions that I've made over my life, like w- some of them have had a really big impact, and some of them haven't, but there's no way to know that until you've made it. Um, And I feel like I always reference her, y'all, but Sarah Cannon, on her Sarah Cannon channel, her live that she did last week, she talked about this a little bit, and how there's the theory of, if you made one small different decision, that your life would be a complete different trajectory. And um like, there's some version of you in some multiverse that is living that different life. And we always think of it in those big decisions, right? If I hadn't like, moved here, if I hadn't gone to this event where I met, my husband, if I hadn't, like, you think of the big ones, but it's also possible that it's the little ones. And you have no way of knowing until it's happened. And sometimes even then, you don't even know. You don't know that that one small decision that you made impacted your life in a big way. You have no idea. You have no idea. And so we just have to make the best decisions we can. Also, this comment makes me so happy. I was talking with my mom and she told me to ask you. I appreciate that. Because speaking of imposter syndrome, Megan, sometimes I struggle to talk about stuff like this because it feels like, you know, oh, you've only lived this much life. How could you possibly have like, thoughts on X, Y, or Z, right? How could you possibly, like, and again, there's my imposter syndrome, right? Where I'm like, well, I'm only this old. And so how could I possibly give advice on X, Y, or Z? And I think what it comes down to is there's so many tools that I've learned with goals, like all or nothing, black or white, 0 or 100, that can be applied to so many other things, right? There's so many little things that I'm like, we can apply that to this. And I can apply this concept that I have learned and I know is successful with goals, that if I apply it to this aspect of my life, wow, that's cool too. Right. I think that's when I'm like, build building up my own confidence, that I'm like, no, you do know what you're talking about. And even if it doesn't help you and you're listening to this and you're like, again, nothing you said was helpful. Fine. Okay. That is not, it doesn't matter. Okay. Stephanie, I started out with 3 goals. One being large and a huge accomplishment, getting your work license, which you achieved in Q1. I love that. My 2 other goals are very broad without endpoints. Um, I miss having that thing that I'm striving for. Should I set a goal with a new endpoint? So that is kind of how I consider quarterly goals, Stephanie, is I think of them as smaller things with endpoints. Now, that doesn't mean that they all have to have endpoints. It just means that it's a smaller focus and you're narrowing in a little bit. If you really want, like, if you think that having something that is more concrete is beneficial for you, find it. Now, I don't mean to add a new goal to have something concrete. That is not what I am suggesting. I am suggesting taking one of those other 2 goals and finding a way to make something more concrete. And if you're struggling to come up with that, send me a text and we can figure it out together, with what your 2 goals are, and we'll figure out how to find something more concrete. But there are lots of ways to have a shorter timeline, more concrete, even within a broad goal without endpoints. Um, I feel like that is what I do every quarter when I pick my quarterly goals is I'm like, okay, here's my overarching goal for the year. That's very broad. What is something I could do in 3 months that's going to get me closer to where I want to be at the end of it? And some of that comes to light in the session when we're like getting clear on what the goal means and we're defining it, not breaking down, we're defining our goals. Um, and some of it I think is just like how many different goals I've helped break down. I can think of those different things. Um, but I also would encourage you that the overarching goal doesn't always need to have an endpoint, but if the action steps do, it could still feel the same way, right? So you have these overarching goals that don't have endpoints, but you pick, okay, in April, I'm going to do this and this and this, and those are concrete, and you can say that you achieved them at the end of the month, can still give you that same feeling. That's true, Tammy. I trust my son's counsel and feedback, even though they are young. They can look at the problem issue from a different perspective, and age doesn't always matter. I know. I have to remind myself of that all the time. And because that is one of my imposter syndromes that I struggle with is my age. Before becoming a mom, it was giving advice to people who were parents. And now it's like advice to people with different age kids, right? Or more kids. Like it doesn't go away. It just gets I get better at it. That's all. I get asked about imposter syndrome a lot, and I don't have like a concrete magic solution. Um, it is more about continuing to take action so that I have evidence that I know what I'm doing. How would you build a quarterly goal when you have a habit of writing down goals but not doing them due to chronic fatigue? But knowing doing these things will help with exhaustion. That's tough. It's definitely that double edged sword. So, obviously, I don't personally struggle with chronic fatigue. I know that it is not the same, but I will say those first couple of weeks of newborn life, I kind of felt like I had chronic fatigue. Hence why I understand why people don't work for those first couple of weeks. Um, but with any sort of um, struggle that this works for most people, but especially if you have a chronic physical illness, a mental illness, a somebody that you are supporting that has one of those, having options. So when you are picking your goals, have three choices. Have these are the things I do on have like an average. These are the things I do on my average day. And be realistic. Don't say like, "Oh, well I want to read 30 minutes a day." Like, no, 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 no. If you are at your average fatigue levels, which again, for you may be very low and lower than you want until you work on these things and build them up. What can you do? Then have one that's slightly higher. Like on days that I'm feeling good, I'm going to push myself and I'm going to do 7 minutes. So let's say 5 minutes is your baseline. And then on the days that you're feeling good, you're going to do 7 minutes. And then have your bare bones minimum. No matter what, even on days that are really hard, what is your minimum? What is your baseline? What can you commit to? And for some steps, that might be 0. Maybe it's putting one dish away from the dishwasher. Maybe it is reading one page of something. Maybe it is sending one text to a friend. And I'm just throwing out ideas. I don't know what your actual goal action steps are, but have a bare bones minimum that's like your baseline. And then the reminder that you might feel like those little tiny steps are not worth it and that they're not going to help you get out of the exhaustion and they're not going to make a difference. But they are in 2 ways. Number 1 is those little steps are going to give you the confidence that you can do more. They're going to give you the confidence that you can do it. They're going to be like, okay, I can do, even if what I am doing is so small, I can do it. I can do it every day or most days. Every day is unrealistic, but you know what I mean? The other thing it's going to do is it's going to add up. it may feel like that one tiny, tiny minimum is not going to make an impact, but I promise you it will. It will add up. You take one more sip of water, by the end of the week, that's a whole gulp. You read one page, one paragraph of a book, it will add up. So, just the reminder that set a small little minimum that works for you on your hard days and focus on having options, and that it will add up over time. You've got this. Colleen, I love that you're still sharing your win. Just got back from having your car service. It's in good shape for 6 months. Goal was from end of last year. It's done. Mm. We are about to run out of time, but I want to tackle this very quickly, Stephanie, and then you and I can keep talking if you need help. How do you start a goal that gives you anxiety but needs to be done, like a financial goal? Number one, make it really, 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 really small. Part of sometimes what gives you anxiety about these goals is that there's so many components to it and there's so much going on. I worked with someone one-on-one once on a financial goal, and she had a list of like 20 things related to her finances that she wanted to tackle. I'm like, well, okay, step one, we've got to realize we're not tackling all 20 of these this week. We need to make them all even smaller. Number two, if it is something that you really struggle with mentally, there's got to be a reward. There's got to be a bribe. There's got to be something that you celebrate with when you do that step. You track your finances for 3 days in a row, you get to watch your new episode of XYZ, right? Like have a reward for those little steps. And just make it as small as possible. It is one of those things that it will get easier once you start. You're building it up in your head to be more than it is. There is no way I'm giving this question at all what it needs to be in the next 30 seconds. So maybe we need to save this one for next week because we're almost out of time. Because you're not alone in that being a topic. And everybody's different in what gives them anxiety. Finances is a common one, but there's definitely others that other people, myself included, struggle with. But I did not do that question justice. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, we are almost out of time. So I need to ask you my last question, which is, what is the one thing you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What is the one small step that you're going to take that is going to set you up for success? Maybe it's just joining us on Saturday for the chat. I'm so excited. I'm so excited, y'all. What is the one thing? My one thing is finishing April's content. I'm going to get it done. I'm not going to be behind like I was in March. If you're on my email newsletter list in March, it was like, this one's late. Now this one's late. I just could not stay on top of it. That is not happening in April. I am going to be on top of it. Schedule an oil change, pay my bills, read at night. Saturday, we have our quarterly refresh call inside the community. It is at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to check in with our annual goals and set up our quarterly goals for Q2. I love this. Getting everything together and take the call seriously. Yeah, block. It's your time. So there will be time for a break, but like have your drinks, have your snacks, like be ready to go, and take advantage of that time together. Oh my gosh, Colleen, me too. Same. That's all I'm going to say. Yay, seeing Argyle with friends and resetting your goals, weekly intentions. I love that step. Kate. I'm the same way. I spend more time than I need to be on that situation. Okay, we are out of time. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would appreciate that. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every week focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching.